Series, and the gentleman from California, Mr. Swalwell, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for appearing, Mr. Attorney General, and please express my gratitude to the men and women who serve the Department of Justice. You stated in your opening statement that my story has never changed, but Mr. Attorney General, it has changed 3 times, and today we heard the 3rd edition when you told us that you do now recall Mr. Papadopoulos mentioning that he had contacts in Russia. And so I have a slide for you that I'd like to display. It's a January 10th, 2017 exchange with Senator Franken where he asks about campaign communications with Russia. And you stated, Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of these activities. Mr. Attorney General, if you were asked that question today, recalling that you are now aware of what Mr. Papadopoulos said on March 31st, would you answer that question differently?
All I would say to you, Congressman, is if you fairly treat the exchange I had with Senator Franken, I think you can understand where when I answered the question, I felt like I was answering it properly.
But you would agree today it should be answered differently if it was asked in the same form today, considering your recollection that you just gave us?
I believe that you're asking me today, explicitly, did you meet with any other Russians?
Today,
I am prepared to say I did. I met with the ambassador in my office with at least 2 of my staff, senior respected patriots, colonels retired in the Army,
and Mr. Attorney
nothing
General,
improper occurred at all.
Once and for all, can we answer the question?
I am once and for all answering the question, Congressman. I don't understand why you won't take my answer.
Well, we're on the 3rd edition, Mr. Attorney General. So during your time on the campaign, did any person on earth state that they were communicating with Russians, traveling to Russia, or asked the campaign to meet with Russians, to your recollection?
Was I asked that question?
No, I'm asking you today, to your knowledge, did any person on the campaign tell you they were going to Russia?
I'm prepared to answer the question, but I just will not answer it in a way that suggests that I in any way intentionally misled anyone when I answered the question.
What's the answer to the question, Mr. Attorney General?
The answer is I met with the ambassador in my office for less than an hour, I believe, and he came up to me after a speech at the convention when it was raised to me that this months later. Nobody said immediately it was an error. By press, I immediately revealed and acknowledged or told them the meetings I'd had.
With respect to Carter Page, he told you, as you just acknowledged, that he was going to Russia. He was also on the national security team, and this is the 2nd person within about 3 months now that is bringing up Russian contacts, and you did not tell him to not go to Russia. Is that correct?
No, I didn't tell him not to go to Russia.
And you didn't tell anyone else on the campaign that he had told you that?
I don't recall him saying that, but am I supposed to stop him from taking a trip?
Well, at that point, did you think that now that 2 people have talked about either going to Russia or having contacts with Russia, that the campaign where you were the chairman of the national security team might have a Russia problem?
Well, if I read what's been said about the Papadopoulos meeting, the one that was somewhat earlier than that, I did say you don't represent something to that. I pushed back at his trip and was concerned that he not go off somewhere pretending to represent the Trump campaign. He had no authority for that. This young man didn't have any ability and ought not to be going off representing the campaign.
Mr. Attorney General,
the next one is Carter Page, and he says, from what I see in his testimony, interviews, he said after the meeting was over, he goes out and
moving on, Mr. Attorney General.
He goes out and he says he's going to Russia. I made no response.
CIA Director Pompeo has called.
So what does that mean?
Well, the American people will judge that.
I don't think it means that I've done anything dishonest.
Mr. Attorney General, the CIA Director has judged that WikiLeaks is a hostile, non-state intelligence service. Do you agree?
I'm not able to disagree with that.
But candidate Trump, who you were working for...
He's more aware of its activities, perhaps, than I.
But candidate Trump said throughout the campaign, I love WikiLeaks. Do you love WikiLeaks, Mr. Attorney General?
I'm not a fan of WikiLeaks.
Do you think it was appropriate that Donald Trump Jr. communicated with WikiLeaks during the course of the campaign?
I'm not able to make a judgment about that.
Thank you again for
Time,
appearing.
gentlemen, has expired. The committee will stand in recess until immediately after this vote.